So, someone gave me the idea to do a tier list to help newer players, as well as more experienced and seasoned players, to pick their 4 stars. What 4 stars are the best ones? Which ones should they be looking for? Which ones are the best for their account? And it's a really common question. So, with that, let me ask you a question. At what constellation does a 4-star pop off? When do they become that monster powerhouse that everyone thinks they are? Yeah, everyone knows Xiangling is great, but what constellation does she get really good? Where is she like, oh, now she's a monster, that's the crazy one, right? So, we're going to talk about it. We're going to go through every single 4-star currently in the game and lay out exactly what constellation do they get good at. Yeah, what con do they become meta? That's a good way of looking at it. So, let me organize this a little bit, put this back over there. I think everyone should be more or less in the right spot, because I'm going to do this in chronological order. Lisa. So, Lisa, we'll start with Lisa. Lisa's like, actually, let's start with Amber. Let's start with Amba. Amba is a strange one, because I don't think there's any one constellation that really makes her pop off. Because she never really hits that high. Not really. And the original 3, and I'll put Kaeya here, because they don't have banners. They never get banners. So, it's a weird thing for them, so I feel like... let's sum through her cons. Let's go look at Amba. So, C1 gives her the charge shot thing, which is, not great. C2 is fine. Again, it's fine, for doing cheesy stuff with that, and then... an attack buff. I'm gonna just put C0 for her, because like I said, she doesn't really get one that really makes her all that great. Her A4 is the best part of her kit. Yeah, exactly. Her cons don't really offer that much. I guess you could argue, you know what? I'm gonna be controversial here. I'm gonna say C2. So, her C2 gives her the chance, she can blow up her Baron Bunnies now for extra damage. So, if you're trying to do any kind of DPS build, that's usually your go-to. We could make the argument that they're harder to get, so maybe we don't bother with them, but I think we should. I think we can talk about them. So I'll put Amber in C2, actually. Because she does get that one constellation that kind of changes her playstyle, but it's... whatever. Lisa C6. Lisa at C6 becomes a very different kind of character where she comes on field and just blows everyone up very quickly because her scaling's really high. She hits really hard, potentially. But unfortunately, it's not until that C6 where you can do it consistently. That's the point where, Lisa's, truly viable as, a 4-star character. Before that, she's, a fine character. She's okay. C0 is good support. No, she's not, though. It's not good. Yeah, she gets a defense shred with no way of getting energy back. So, that's not good. That's really bad, actually. She's a good Hyper Bloom driver at C0. If you want to be, make an argument for that. Yeah, at C0, she can do Hyper Bloom. But as, an actual, in her own, where she pops off and becomes, a really good character, definitely C6. Kaeya's an interesting one to talk about, though, because Kaeya's good out of the box. All of his constellations make him better, but, he is so good out of the box. So, I don't know if there's any constellation that really makes him, explode. I think all of them are just, good minor upgrades. They're just upgrades on the things he's already doing. Noelle. Okay, I hate doing this to my girl, but she's a C6 girl. She's a C6 girl. She needs that constellation. She gets that constellation, she becomes a monster truck. That's the thing that makes her good, right? This is my answer. No one, I don't think anyone else can really, she's insane. Barbara. Okay, Barbara's a weird one, because she heals out of the box at C0. And she's pretty good at it, but she does have a con that I do want to talk about. And it's probably C1. Because C1 just generating energy, because she can't do that on her own particularly well. So being able to just do that is really good. And then C2 gives you the hydro damage bonus to your active character, which is really good. And then more energy at C4. Then C6 is the auto res. So, like, where do we think Barbara steps up her game? I think it's C1. I think C1. I think I'm inclined to agree with C1. Because, like I said, she can't generate energy, and her burst is really good as a heal. It's like push button, full heal your party. It's nice. Okay. Seems like most people agree. Sucrose. Let's look at the Sucrose cons, shall we? I feel like the first batch, we didn't really have to look at them too much, but now we have to have conversations. Now we have to have a difficult talk. So the extra charge is obviously very good for her skill. Helps her with her energy. More duration on the burst, that's super good. This is a cool ability, but it's not, like, game-breaking. Like, if she's a driver, like, there's a team comp where this is really good, but there's, like, only one team comp. But then there's this one. Sucrose is good out of the box because she's Animo, but she really, really takes off at C6, doesn't she? So this is where the argument comes in. At what point do we say, well, the C6 is a gigantic jump, but is she good enough out of the box? She has 2 jumps. Yeah, the first jump's at C0 because she's already great. What are you doing this? What is this? Is it Paimon? It is Paimon. What we're doing is a tier list of all the 4-star characters, and we're rating them based on what constellation do they become relatively good. When do they get their power spike? When's their power spike? When are they at their most viable? Like, obviously C6 is, like, best for most characters, but a lot of characters, they have a particular constellation, or maybe they don't have any constellations that they particularly need. So, like, my example here being Kaeya. Kaeya doesn't really need any constellations to be good. But to be good, Noelle needs 6 constellations. She needs her C6 to be really good. C1. I'm inclined to somewhat agree, because the double skill is really good. Because it's, like, a lot of crowd control, the damage is good, lots of swirls, gives her lots of energy, like, it's very good. Aloy has constellations too. Oh, of course. She's also not a 5. She's not a 4-star. She's a 3-star. So she's not in this conversation, thankfully. Sucrose is probably the hardest one we've gotten so far. Because there's a lot of arguments to be made. Is she good? Is she so good out of the box that C0 is all you need? Does that C1 make enough of a difference where you're like, man, having that second skill is so big and it's just, like, so necessary? Or do we acknowledge that that C6 like, power spike is insane? Because the C6 power spike is nuts. Like, that's the thing that turns her into a mini Kazuha. But she's so good out of the box, so, like, she's a tough one. Fischl's a C0 girl, does a lot of damage to their A4. Yeah, that is true. Her C6 is monstrously good, but I think people overrate it sometimes. Sac Fragments does exist. Well, actually, that's the funny thing. A lot of the time, it's still her best weapon. So when you have the C1, you still run Sac Fragments on her, so you can do it 3 times. What's better than doing your skill twice? Doing it 3 times. Just saying. You make a good point, Ivy. But 3 is a bigger number than 2. Personally, that's where I started paying attention to her. Okay. This is tough. Like I said, because she's so good right away, I'm going to leave her at C1 for now. We might come back and touch on this one. Like, we might come back to her and talk about it again. Maybe we'll set a precedent later on that would make it that, like, okay, no, we want to put Sucrose in, like, C6. Like, there's a universe where that happens. Fischl's probably going to be a C0 girl. There's a good chance. Like, we'll take a look at the cons. This is fine. This is a physical con. This is nice because it's a little extra damage. Extra damage. This is really nice. It's all very good. Yeah, I think C0. A ghost just opened your door. Yeah, her name's Kazumi. She does that sometimes. She just comes in here, opens the door, and then leaves. You get Fischl at any point. You don't need any cons. Cons make her better, but, like, you don't need any of them for her to be great. Oh boy, Razor. Okay, let's talk about Razor. Okay. Oh boy. He generates a lot of particles, so more damage is more good. He has a crit rate execute, which is interesting, I guess. It's not very good, though. He has a defense shred, which is actually quite good. Like, just using his skill, just 50 is damage stuff, and then every 10 seconds, sword starts up, normal attack release, deals damage of lightning damage. C4? Yeah, I guess C4. If you're serious about your Razor gameplay, you're probably here for the defense shred. I would imagine. Because nothing here really screams, yeah, wow, Razor's good now. This is the closest you're gonna get. Razor's in a weird spot. He's a physical character. He's sort of like Amber, where he, like, never really gets that, like, sick pop-off, but he does have he has a spike. It's just, unfortunately, the peak of that spike isn't very high. Bennett C1 is good. It changes how he's played. It makes him significantly better. And I will show you what the C1 is for those who don't know or don't remember. Normally, Bennett will either buff or heal. If you're below 70% health or whatever, I think it's 70. If you're below 70% health, it heals you. If you're above 70% health, it buffs you. This makes it so both can be true. While it's healing, you're also being buffed. It doesn't matter. So yeah, this is kind of a must. If you really want to use Bennett and have him be, like, the Bennenator that we all, like, talk about and, like, how broken he is, it's the C1 that does it. Ningguang. So, Ningguang, I think, might be a C6 girl. I'll pull up the constellation so for those who don't know it, we can see it. So, so her normal attacks get splash damage at C1. The Jade Screen gets you get a second Jade Screen effectively, which is cool. You get an elemental resistance increase with Jade Screen, which is whatever, but it's this one. You can argue C1, maybe. Hey, Freakification, what's up, man? Welcome to the stream. This is so weird to me, because it's almost like they created a flaw to immediately fix with his first con. It is interesting, isn't it? I think it was an old philosophy, because they used to do that a lot, I think. Good shit. So, yeah, getting the splash damage on the rocks, but this is a really crazy power spike, and actually, like, I think this gives her, like, some viability as a DPS. This gives her, like, some legitimacy as it, because being able to shoot off 7 of the stars at once is really good. It's a lot of damage. I think C6 was what gives her viability. Because all of a sudden, she loses a chunk of her clunkiness, and on top of that, it makes her viable in sort of a quick swap setting. So it gives her more viability and more team comps. It makes her just a little bit stronger. Like, and all of her other roles, like, it's good. I'm gonna go with C6. She's gonna be one of those ones we might come back to. Beidou. Where is Beidou? So, Beidou is a very interesting one because she is very good. She's good out of the box, but no one knows what Beidou does, so no one knows. So C1 gives her the shield from her burst, which is actually kind of good. It's not that big, but, like, it's nice. C2 is obviously crazy good because the more jumps is more good. C4 kind of sucks, honestly. It's not great. And C6 is really, really good. Like, C6 is, like, crazy good. Because 15% Electro Res Shred is really nice. It's push button, shred resistance, do damage. And other than that, it's between C2 and C6 with her, I think. C6 is, like, sort of, like, part of, like, what she's known for. Like, that shred is really good. But I think 2 is, like, the additional bounces, I think, is, like, what makes it good. I think C2 is the bigger spike. I think C2 is, like, the one that makes you go, like, okay, now I want to use her. Hey, Sander, what's up, man? Welcome back. So, I'm going to look at it like this. Maybe there's a better way of looking at this. Rather than it just being, oh, where's the best power spike? It's more like, what is the con that makes you go, okay, now I want to use them? The shield is significant, but it's not really her focus, right? Like, everyone, like, it's the shield is like the, oh, that's super nice, I like that. But it's not super nice until you start using it. You know what I mean? Like, once you use it, you're like, oh, I get it. But before you start using it, you're like, it's okay. So, his C6 is super good. His C6 is, like, nigh game-changing. Because I think most people, when they think of how broken Xingqiu is, they're thinking of his C6. But C2 giving Hydro Shred. There's another Shred showing up, but this one's a lot earlier. Water Boy has a good buff that gives 20% Hydro Res. Yeah. C0 Xingqiu. Is he, like, the powerhouse everyone knows him to be at C0? Because C4 is a really good spike, too. This is actually, like, a really good constellation, and C6 is insane. I think it might be the C6, honestly. Like, C0, he's already good, but, like, my god! So, yeah, this question is hard, actually. He's a tough one. He's another tough one. Because his C4 is good. His C6 is insanity. His C2 is really good. He's really good out of the box. I don't know if he's viable. I think he's viable before C6. I think C6 is what makes him keep up with Yelan. But I think, you know what? Let's look at it this way. Was I excited to use Xingqiu before C6? No. Was I excited to use him when I got his C6? Very much so. You can go for C4 or 6, but you can keep him at C0 and play. Yeah, exactly. You know what? Maybe this is sacrilege. I think I will put him in C0 because, like, I think he's so good out of the box that you can grab him and be happy using him before any constellation. Yeah, like, as a new player, he's a really good C0. Like, he's really good at C0, and then he just gets better and better. Like, every constellation is a spike for him, basically. Yeah. Yeah, at C6, his Hydro application goes from very good to, like, bonkers. He goes from, like, good to insane. That's his range. Yeah. I think let's not overcomplicate it. I don't want to add more tiers if I can avoid it, but I agree with the sentiment, AO. Pyronado. Yep. I don't even have to argue with... It's nice when I don't have to argue with Sander. It's C4. Everyone knows it's C4. Like the explosive. We all know this. If you don't know it, I'll show you why. I'll show you exactly why it's her C4. It is insane. It's very simple. It's super basic. It doesn't do anything fancy. It doesn't need to. C4 increases duration of Pyronado by 40%. It's ridiculous. Like, is she good at C0? Yeah, she's okay, but, like, Jesus Christ, this is the thing that makes her crazy. This is where her pop-off is. This is where you're excited to run her. This is the thing that makes you go, oh, I get it now. Oh my god, the duration is nuts. Like, just for mathematics' sake, the duration is 10 seconds, brings it up to 14 seconds, which is an age. Now, her ER need is outrageous, and C0's duration is painful. Oh, for sure. That extra 4 seconds is nuts. That goes hard. C6 is good. Because her C6 is, pyro damage buff, right? Yeah. Pyro damage bonus to the whole party with Pyronados up, which is just good. It's just good, but, like, come on. Come on. Everyone knows it's C4. Like the explosive. Chongus is weird, because he doesn't really have a home right now, but he's always been good. The last attack of Chongyun's normal attack combo releases Ice Blade. It's cool for a DPS build, which I've been meaning to... I want to try out one of these days. Elemental skills burst cast within his Frost Field has their cooldown really reduced, which is really good. Yeah, the skill cooldown is kind of massive, right? And I think this is probably the con that made him really viable and really good in, back when he used to be part of the national team. Let me see if there's any other ones. That's a lot of... Wow, oh my god, he gets a lot of generation energy from that. Holy shit. 15% more damage from Spirit Blade. Lower percentage their max HP than Chongyun. Also summons additional Spirit Blade. Yeah, I'd go with C2 on him. Because I think this is probably the con that made him good in National. Because every one of them would love a lower cooldown on their skill. Like, no one's complaining about that. And their burst. It's both, right? Yeah, Chongus gets to be a C2 guy. I should run Chongyun more. I should do more with him. I should build a team for him. Chongyun's kind of good. I like Chongus. I think C2's the cool one. C2... Cool. Diona. So she's good out of the box, but she has some crazy good cons. She has some nutty constellations, so she's going to make an interesting talking point. So her C1 is really good, because it just reduces the energy cost of signature mix of her burst by 15. So it brings her her burst cost down from 80 to 65, effectively, which is pretty good. That's a good constellation. C2 makes her viable in co-op and just makes her shield better. This is very good. This is kind of silly and not really worth talking about, but if you really like DPS Diona, that's your con. The C6 though. Oh, the C6 is really good. Welcome back, Tails' Wi-Fi. Where do we land Diona? I think it's like 1, 2, or 6, right? It's like the 1 is good for the burst. I would almost say 2. Co-op viability seems kind of a weird reason to like make it the 1, but like honestly, I was ecstatic to get this. But that was back in the day, though. If you want to talk about making her like a really good monstrous character, and making her like one of the best supports, debatably one of the best supports in the game, it's C6. Any other thoughts on this? Jigsaw Torture's very excited about C6. C0. That's an interesting take, actually, because she is good at C0. She does her job at C0. Actually, you make a good point. She does do her job at C0. Does C6 change her enough that all of a sudden, like, you are, like, oh my god, she's so much better now? Yeah, she is good at C0. Isn't she? I might put Diona at C0. I wish I could put her in both, honestly. But that would complicate things, and I don't want to do that. This is the Constellation. This is actually a very rare buff. Not a lot of characters buff EM. And when you think about all the characters that buff EM directly, they're all really, really good. Like, with the exception of Beidou, and even he's really good. But, like, this is one of the biggest EM buffs in the game for free. 200 EM for just not dying is pretty good. 200 EM is a lot of EM, and a lot of characters really like it. I think I'm going to go with C0, though. Yeah, I think she does her job, and I think as a new player, I think having her at C0, you're more than fine. You could argue C2 for a new player, because new players love co-op. New players love co-op. But Diona is good with DPS Kazuha. Yeah. She's also good at, like, just being with Kazuha. You can just put them in the same team and just throw them in a freeze team. The co-op viability was huge for me in Astro when I started playing in the 1.x patches. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, actually. Do we give her the honorary C2? Do we give her that honorary C2 spot and be all like, yeah, if you're a new player in particular, man, you want her C2 so you can go and co-op. New player loves cat girls. That's also true. What do you guys think? C0 or C2? C0 because she does her job very, very well, and, like, she's really, really good. Or C2 because you can actually play her in co-op with your friends. And be, like, the coolest support ever. Yeah, okay. I'm seeing some I see some C0. I would love to put C6, because, like, her C6 is so freaking good. But it's not necessary. Oh, I love her 200 EM. The 200 EM is insane, but it's not the reason you run her, though. Like, especially as a new player. You have C6 Xinyan, too? Oh, neat. Speaking of Xinyan. So she's a C6 girl. Alright. Hey, Sean, what's up? Welcome back from the expected work trip. Back, you can now, yeah, you can get back to your job lurking. Alright. Now you can start your real job, lurking in stream. What's up, man? How was your trip? I hope you're doing well, man. So okay, so as the resident Xinyan, actual person who actually plays Xinyan, yeah, she's a C6 girl. Her playstyle and, like, her role is so confusing before C6. Once you have C6, you're like, okay, you spin at them, okay. And you can actually take your Xinyan to the bank and actually, like, have it, like, do relatively well. So, yeah, I'm inclined to just leave her at C6 and be all like, yeah, if you really want to use your Xinyan, get her to C6. Keep your eyes open for her, roll on those banners, if you really like her. Rosa's an interesting one, because she has a really good C6. She has a lot of good talents, but, like, for what her role is, she's a weird one, because she has, like, a couple of roles. Because she gets, like, a lot of, like, normal attack buffs, right? Like, she gets, like, a lot of, like, physical buffs. But, you get, like, energy back for her skill, then you get physical res shred. Like, if any con here is, like, a good one, it's probably the C2. So, she's, like, a physical DPS, physical support, cryo support. She has a lot of roles. Yeah. I have her C0, or I have her C2 now. Nice. C0. I might be inclined to go with C0 because she is good at C0. It's between 2 and 0 for me, because 2 gets her 4 extra seconds of Rites of Termination, which is really good. It's like the same thing with Pyronado, right? 4 extra seconds is a long time. She's like a physical DPS support. Sort of, yeah, but she can, like, support herself doing it. It's very strange. She lives in, like... She basically, if you look at everything she does, she basically lives in Disneyland, where, like, magic happens, and it makes no sense. So, 4 seconds is an age of Rites of Termination, and Rites of Termination is really good. It also has a sick name. Come on, it's called Rites of Termination. That's an awesome name. But seriously, though, is it C0 or 2? She is good for melt, too. Where the C2 pops in. Actually, the C2 is what helps enable the melt team better, because 4 more seconds of Rites of Termination. 4-star Eula, effectively. Well, is Razor more of a 4-star Eula? Sort of. She's sort of a 4-star Eula, but she's good. Yeah, Fremine is more of the 4-star Eula now in a more official capacity. But for the time, I would say that would have been true. I don't know. Any other takes on this? What do we think? C2 or C0? I need some opinions, because I'm actually not sure. I'm leaning towards C2, but I can go either way on this. As described with Miss Pyronado, 4 seconds is an eternity. Is this the listing of the best cons? No, actually, it's a little different. It's close, though. Basically, we're rating 4-star characters, and the rating for them, this tier list, is basically at what con, if you're a new player or a current player, at what constellation do they become really good? Like, when are you excited to use them? So it's not just, like, the best cons, more as it is the, what con does a character pop off at? But on the note of more constellations, not quite penguins, though, where do we put Yanfei? Like, combine 2 bennies together to get a god character? Yeah, literally. So, Yanfei is very cool. But I have no idea what con I want to say she's good at. I don't even have her C6. So, probably C1. I'm going to probably lock in at C1, but C2 is good. Another crit rate execute, which is fine. Tank Faye is funny. but isn't, like, game-changing. And C6 is, like, her massive power spike. Like, this is obviously, like, her best con. But, is she good before this? Can we make her good before this? And I would argue yes. I think she is good without C6. And I don't think it's C2. I think it is C1. Because Yanfei uses her charge attack, each existing Scarlet Seal additionally reduces the stamina cost of her charge attack. This is massive. You can't type Tank Fei in game. Yeah, they don't like the word tank, I think. Early game when you may not have a lot of sustain, C4 is really yummy. It's cute. It's a cute idea, but like as a new player, is this the play? Maybe. There's a universe where this is the play, but I feel like most of the time it's probably this. Because most of the charge attack characters, and I'll even take a look through some of this just to make sure I'm not wrong about this. But if you look at like Klee, for example, when Klee gets her charge attack proc, her next charge attack is free. Yanfei doesn't get that benefit. She has to pay for the whole thing. So the C1 helps alleviate her stamina costs. And I think the stamina cost is a problem. So I think C1 is when Yanfei becomes comfortable to play. And when she's like, yeah, she's good at C1, she is playable, she is strong. Sayu's a weird one. I think she only has one con worth talking about. Sayu's really hard because she's not really, like, competitively viable on her own anyway. So this is a must. Like, no matter what, if you want Sayu to be viable in any capacity, this is a must. So right off the bat, we gotta talk about C1. Like, C1, it can't be any lower than C1. C2 is actually pretty good. It gives her kick some really big damage if you're willing to set it up, but it actually doesn't scale that much, honestly. Like, the jump in damage, if you, like, put all your power into it, it's okay. It doesn't end up being that great, but it's alright, it's fun. This is a fun talent. She has energy problems. That's a thing. She definitely has energy issues. This helps. So C4 is in that conversation now. Now I want some good waffles. Crispy on the outside, soft on the inside. Yeah, just don't go to my old work to get that kind of stuff done because they're so bad at cooking, you will get soft on the outside, crispy on the inside. Believe it or not, when I first started my EU account, Sayu 0 did 30k damage solo. I could believe that. Sayu can do good damage if you build her right. For sure. C1 is good, but nobody's going to use her as a support, so C2... See, that's where the conversation gets weird, right, Jigsaw? Is because, like, most people just use her for exploration, which means C0 would be the point anyway, because none of the cons matter for that. Like, it doesn't mean anything. But if we're looking at playing her like a normal character, like... If we wanted to say, oh, I want to bring my Sayu into the Abyss, I want to bring her into the theater, I want to go fight some things, I want to farm stuff with her, well, when does she become good? Like, when is she good enough? Probably domain effect, but that was unbelievable for me. Hey, you know what? 30k is 30k. And then there's this one, which actually, if you're talking about making her viable as any kind of damage, it is actually this one. Because it means you can just stack EM on her. Like, you can go full EM on her and just be a swirl DPS, and it's actually pretty good. So... I don't know how to rate this one. I wouldn't say C2. C2 doesn't do enough. I don't think C2 is big enough. I think it's 1 or 6. 1, 6, or 4. Honestly, because 1 is crazy. 1 is so, like, necessary. Like, it has to be at least 1. It can't be lower than 1. Because having a restriction where your burst can either heal or damage sucks. You just want them to do both. I don't know who it was, but someone used her with Kaeya, Xiangling, and someone else, so that's how I've been running her. Oh, it was me! It was me who did that, Kendra. That's me! I do that! I did that! It might have actually been me. In 2024, no one uses Sayu C1. I'm gonna use Sayu today. Once we're done with this tier list, we're playing Sayu. You know what? I'm inclined to agree with Sean there. The fact that, like, no matter what, like, you can debate the other ones till, you know, the end of time. C1's not a debate, though. With Ayaka? Yeah. No, I got a team for her. I got a team for her that you might get. You're gonna enjoy it. Yeah, I have a team you're going to enjoy. Just trust me. Do you trust me? Sayu's a C1. Kujou Sara. It's C6, isn't it? It's C6, isn't it? She's okay out of the box, but if you just have her, she's just worse Bennett. But at C6, she's actually better Bennett if you're running Electro teams. Down here. Yeah. So C1 is fine. C2 is pretty necessary because this makes actually landing her buff possible. Because otherwise it's a pain in the ass. So I might be inclined to agree with that. I think I'm with you on that one. You know what? Yeah. C4 is cool, and C6 is, like, the monster truck. Yep. C2 makes her, like, playable, honestly. Otherwise, she's a just obnoxious character to play. I think Thomas might be a C0 guy. Thomas might actually be our first C0 that we've had in a while, because he is just kind of solid, right? But let's look at the cons and see what we're working with. Like... he has cooldown reduction on his skill, he gets duration, which is really good. Oh, it might be C2, actually. Ooh, it might be C2, actually. That's really good. I think he might have an energy regen con. Yeah. He has the exact same one that Diona has. But if we didn't rate it very highly on Diona, I don't know if we rate it highly on him either. It's good. It's probably better on him because his energy needs are a little higher. I don't think he feels that much better at C6. This sounds weird, but I don't think so. Maybe this. It might be... it's C0 or 2 in my book. Because I don't think Thoma changes, like, literally at all between constellations. I think he's just fine where he is, and then he just stays fine. And then with Burgeon, you probably want C2. Yeah, actually, if you're doing Burgeon, you really want C2, right? I have C1 and I don't like playing him. Here's the thing, Thoma's, like, low-key really good. Whether or not, like, your opinion on how complete he feels, him feeling complete versus him being good are two different things. He can feel incomplete and still be good. That's the funny thing. Is Thoma good? Yeah. Yeah, he is, actually. He's really good. He's solid. He's a great shielder and a phenomenal Burgeon enabler. Like, he's fantastic, potentially. If we're talking about Burgeon, his most common team, at this point, it's got to be C2, right? He's a tough one. He's definitely a tough one. Oh, boy. You want to talk about tough ones, though? Oh, boy, we got a tough one. Where in God's name do you put Gorou? Because holy shit, he's a weird one. It is either 0 or 6. There is no in between. There is nothing else worth talking about. Let's look at Gorou cons and let me explain myself. As the Geo main that I am, let me explain. Oh boy. So C1 is like it lowers the cooldown of something that's never usually on cooldown because of how the rotation works, so it doesn't really matter. This is a crystallized thing, so that doesn't matter. A heal that's not very good, so that doesn't matter. And then there's this monster truck talent that gives you 40% crit damage, which is insane. I have zero clue because all I know is he buffs Geo. So I've been using him as a Geo buffer since way before I got his C6. It took me a long time to get his C6. Like, multiple banners of him showing up before I got it. And from my experience, if you are a Geo enthusiast and you are, like, and you love Geo, he is good at C0. But he only supports defense Geo characters, so he supports all of 3 characters. Not crit rate, Foxy, crit damage. CD, not CR. So, here's how it works. Do you like Noelle? Do you like Ito? Or do you like Kachina? Then yes, you run Gorou C0, perfectly fine. If you want to, God forbid, use any other Geo character with him, it has to be 6. Or he does nothing. Nothing worth mentioning, at least. The 2 Geo characters that we get as freebies all work with them really well. Actually, you know what? Funny thing is, if you get a Gorou at C0, you instantly have an easy-bake Geo team. Like, you literally have the team right there. You have Gorou, you have Kachina, and you have Noelle. Easy-bake Geo team. Just throw in a 4th element. Throw in Geo Traveler, and you're good to go. You literally can make Mono Geo at any point if you get Gorou. So, yeah, I think C0 is fine. Oh, Yunjin. Oh, Yunjin. You're another weird one, because you're super duper niche. Is she another C0 girl? Does she need something? C6 gives her the attack speed buff, but, like, it's kind of like Gorou's, where it's, like, almost overkill, where it's like, it's already good what she's doing. This just makes it crazy. So, skill cooldown down. Her C6 is amazing. Even more normal attack at C2 for the whole party. It's a crystallized thing, which is whatever. And then 12% attack speed while running the burst. Yeah, Parker with Yoi. Yeah, C1 is decent because, you know, it helps her get energy back faster because she's skilling. She can use her skill more frequently. So it might just fit a rotation better. The C2 is just really nice. Like C2, it might be C2. Because that's like the... I think this is the one that locks in the gameplay fully. Oh, no. Yeah, no, I get that. But it's just because it worked with Crystallize, and Crystallize is weird. Because no one really cares about Crystallize, so, like, they're usually accidental. They're never intentional, is what I'm saying. Usually. And, like, unless your name rhymes with Lavia, you don't give a shit about Crystallize. The attack speed's obviously very good. She's good out of the box, like, her gameplay is locked in, but, like, C2 really locks in the gameplay, right? That's the one that makes you go, yeah, you're normal attacking all the time. Like, get in there. There is actually a question. It might be C1. It might be C1. And let me tell you why. Or it might be C2. Oh, it's C2. Sorry, it wasn't C1, it's C2. I got it mixed up. I always get 1 and 2 mixed up. It's C2. I think we lock her in at C2 because she's really good at C0, but C2 is what gives her perfect uptime. Yeah, no. I wonder if you could do a burst build. I mean, 50% AoE, that's a lot of AoE potentially. Could you imagine? Big AoE burst cookie. I can't even finish that sentence. Normal charge plunging attacks of the characters affected by the ring will mark them and deal AoE electro damage based on her max HP. This is really good. That's a really good one. But here's the problem with it. It scales with HP. And most people running Cookie aren't running a lot of HP on her. They're running nothing but EM. So this makes her a better HP scaler, though, which is nice. Because I think she's really good even without this. This just makes her, like, perfect. This takes her from good to perfect. And then 6 is when she takes lethal damage, will not take her down. The effect will automatically trigger once every 60 seconds, drops below 25%. She'll gain a bunch of EM. Honestly, I wish I had this earlier. C2 feels really good, but I think C0 is fine. Okay, so he gets normal attack speed after he takes the field for 5 seconds, which is cool. And you get a hard stopper strike, which is good. C2, the pull on his burst is enhanced and has a 1-second duration increase. The first Iris Explosion generates elemental energy. Okay, so this is just a bunch of energy on his burst, and his burst is only kind of okay. I would be back. Alright. And then C6 gives him, like, the murder punch. I think he does his job fine without cons. His C6 is cool, but, like, yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's any con there that really make or break him. There's a spike in there, definitely. There's definitely a spike at the end, but it's not, like, necessary. You can just play him and he's good. Honestly, if it wasn't just for the fact that he's an Inazuma character, for a new player, man, he's great. When you think about it, holy shit, he's such a good starter character. If only you didn't have to get your ass to Inazuma to play him. Collei is good at C0. Collei is outclassed by Dendro Traveler until C6. What do we say about that? So, her C1 is really nice. More energy is more good because she needs her burst. Her burst is core. Here's a bajillion text that just basically says you get a little bit of extra Dendro application, which is nice. And a little bit of extra damage. More EM is more good. Everyone loves a little bit of EM. And it's all characters, so everybody likes that. And the C6 is obviously just very, very good, right? This is the thing that puts her over the top, so... I'll be Genshining right now. Do what you must. C2 better. You sure it's C2? I could have swore it wasn't until C6 where she was better. But maybe I'm wrong? Does anyone else have any insight on this? Because I don't know well enough. I cannot say for sure. And to be fair, I'll be real with you guys. When it comes to Dendro Traveler, it is okay to be outclassed by him because Dendro Traveler is very good. Dendro Traveler is legitimately the best Traveler, bar none. He's actually really good. Oh boy, chat, what do we think about Dolores? So, C1 is cool. More shots. I think it increases the energy output because of it. A little bit of extra damage and electro application, I think. More energy generation, which she already does, and then the infuse. And also, her application doesn't end coming in contact with Pyro. That is true. That is the one problem with DMC, is that you can't run Pyro with him. Like, you can't do Burning or Burgeon with him. Which is fine. So, I'm gonna spout some straight blasphemy on this one. I think Dori is good at C0. I think Dori is a perfectly serviceable and good support and healer right out of the gate. Because there is no con in there that makes you go, that's the one. Her C6 is cool. It's very interesting and can change your way of playing her. I don't think she needs it though. She has a really big single target healing while also being a good battery. And I don't think you can ask for much better than that. Having used Dori a lot, I know that you can maintain her energy pretty well with just a little bit of upkeep. I don't even have Dori yet. Yeah. I prefer Sac, personally, Sacrificial, over Fav, because then I don't have to use crit rate. But same idea, basically. Sacrificial Claymore is really good on her. The Portable Power Saw is really good on her because it also does energy generation. And EM, which is cool, but you need to focus on HP and ER. And? That's what Bennett does. Bennett focuses on just HP and ER. Why do you need anything else? Why do you need anything else? Just, yeah, that's two very easy stats to stack. You get an ER Sands, HP Goblet, HP Circlet. Bam, you're done. ER Weapon. Wow, and there's your build. You're good to go. Focusing on two stats is obviously a good thing because it makes you less prone to RNG struggles. Yeah, exactly. And there's so many artifact sets that work on her because you can grab the HP artifact set. You can grab HP pieces. You can grab ER pieces. Hell, you can grab Electro pieces if you're feeling really spicy, but I don't recommend it. Man, Dori is so slept on, and I can't even grasp it. Speaking of slept on, what about Candy's Nuts? Candace is another weird one because she doesn't really have a home, per se. Like, she has a home if you have her C6 because then Arlecchino likes her. But is she good without that? Like, can you just play her and have her be good? Like, DPS Candace is apparently a real thing. Like, people like that. It's 3-second duration on her burst, I believe, right? Is it the burst? Yeah, it is. Canada's Arlecchino duo is good. Yeah. I don't know about this one, because C6 makes her viable in a very, very good team, but what is she like before that? Like, C1 gives her duration on a burst, which we've already talked about ad nauseum how good that is. So apparently a character has seen Capitano's real face. He has no face. Max HP buff is just fine for her. Cooldown on her skill is really good. And then there's this one. Boo earns. Okay. I'm gonna leave her in C6 for now for the Arlecchino power spike. But she's one of those ones where I think she's fine at C1, but C6 gives her a home. This is subject to change. Because if you want to run her with Arlecchino, you need C6. If you want to just run her, you probably only just need C1 to make her feel good. Layla's a weird one. I want to put her in the C4 crew. Because C4 makes her, like, way more interesting than Diona. She is a good shielder on her own with fine cryo application, but holy shit, that C4 is good. Man, that C4, like, changes her in such a cool way. But, yeah, so C1 is co-op shield, C2 is energy, C4 is normal and charge attack bonus to your teammates based on her max health, which is really cool. That's a lot of damage potential, and it's basically free. Once you have the Constellation. Like, you don't have to work for this. You just push the button. Yeah, the C4 is sick. And this takes her from being like, yeah, she's a shielder, to a, oh, she's the shielder. C2 is co-op shield? No, it's not. C1 is co-op shield. Diona's C2 is co-op shield. Layla's co-op shield is C1. It's right there in front of you with your eyes. Look, Foxy, look with your special eyes. And then C6 is just some extra damage for her, which is cool, I guess. But come on, we know it's the C4. Yeah, I think it's just C4, right, guys? I want to put her in C4 because I think C4 is what makes her interesting, but I think inclined to go with C0. I think I might be inclined to agree with that, because she is a phenomenal shielder at C0. You push the button and the shield is enormous. It's like a Xiangling tier shield. It's really strong, and then you combine that with the C4 later, and it's insane. See, for me, her job isn't shielding, though. Her job is to get that C4 so I can use it. That's her job. But that's not her job for everybody. So, I'm going to put her in C0, but in my heart, it's C4. Alright, Farazan. I wish Asti was here right now. He'd have something to say. She's another super niche one like Gorou, but I don't think she has the benefit that Gorou has. I think Gorou is just better than her. So, Gorou is good at C0. I don't think the benefit she brings her is good. Geo has more ways of boosting its damage than Animo does, and that's really sad. That's really sad. Yeah, this is targeted to new players, and I don't think a new player wants to run a Farazan pre-C6. I think she's like the polar opposite of Gorou, where Gorou has his hyper niche, and he can support the hyper niche, and it feels good without C6. I think that, I think Farazan is the polar opposite. She needs that. She needs all those boosts. The C2 for the duration buff, obviously, is in that conversation. Like, it's super important, but I think even that isn't good enough on its own. I think we want to have the C6. Ooh, Yao Yao. Yao Yao's easy. I don't have to think about Yao Yao. Yao Yao's C0. Let's look at the... We'll look at the Yao Yao cons, but we all know where she's going. Like, come on. We know it's C0. Like, yeah, wow, she gets stamina and stuff, and some extra Dendro damage, which is cool. Like, that's cool. And then energy, that's nice. Doesn't really need it, because she generates energy very well for herself. And then we have... EM, that's cool. EM based on her max HP. That's really nice. Doesn't really need it because she's just healing and doing damage, and it's Dendro, so it doesn't really matter. And then there's the C6, which is like, look at it's attack scaling for some reason, and big AOE radish, yeah. Yeah, it's C0. Yeah, it's C0. Her constellations are cool, but like, holy shit, Yaoyao's good. Yaoyao's so good! If only Yaoyao synergized with Chi-Chi literally at all for the lore team. Well, she kinda does. You can get away with it. You could put them on a... She can work in a fridge team. So, she would be your Dendro applicator, you need a Hydro character, and then, like, an Electro character, like Cookie. I have no idea where we put this kid. I have no idea where he goes. Like, is he good early? No. He has problems. But one of his big problems is actually fixed by the C2. It gives him a way of getting a detector stack that doesn't require hitting multiple enemies, which is good. Which means he can actually do part of his job. But that job sucks. Physical damage isn't very good. So you need to go over the top and over the moon to make your physical damage actually, like, pop off. And unfortunately, that would mean C6 right there with Fires on. I mean, Foxy's the Eula main, so I'm inclined to trust his take on this for the most part. But having used him a lot myself, he's good. He's okay prior to C6 if you have Eula, but if you don't have Eula, man, the C6 is so necessary, because then you can actually make your Razor and Fremine actually do some big number. But yeah, we're moving on to Kaveh next, though. Kaveh is probably C0, actually. His C6 is really good, and, like, hugely, like, his C6 is crazy strong, and gives him, like, turns him into, like, a mini Nilou. Let me check his other cons. You're very gung-ho about C2, so let's take a look at C2. So C1 is just a defensive buff, which is fine. You're blowing yourself up anyway, you might as well be, like, even more resistant to it. Normal attack speed, yeah, yeah, I get it. I see it. I see the line. It's really good, yeah. That gives him, like, the speed to keep up, yeah. Dendro cores created from bloom reactions Kaveh triggers will deal 60% more damage when they burst. That's really good. C6 is really good. Yo, Kaveh kind of good though. Kaveh kind of slept on because Nilou, like, just sort of overshadows him, but like, man, I like Kaveh. He's solid. He's a solid guy. But I think you might be right on that normal attack speed buff. I think you might actually need it. I think I'm going to go with the C2. I'm inclined to trust your take on that. I think it makes sense to me. But I could also see C0. He does his job at C0 pretty well. And then the C4 is really good. Like, just bigger blooms. Like, hell yeah. And then C6 is just really nice, because it's just, and you're exploding, and you're exploding, and you're exploding. It's really nice. I noticed the C6 when I got it. Because, man, everything's exploding when you're part of a team. It's kind of awesome. I sort of love it. We are looking for Kira Rasputin. Wait a minute. What the hell are her constellations? I've never seen her constellations in detail. Every 8,000 HP, she will create an extra explosion. Up to 4. Those don't scale with health, do they? No, they don't. Why don't they scale with health? When you are a cat in a box, you will grant other party members... Oh, it's the... Oh, it's just the co-op shield. Okay, so C2's co-op shield. That's standard. That's fine. For the co-op players out there, they love that con, but for everyone else, it's like, it's alright. After a character protected by the shield, any of her shields, hit an opponent with normal charge or plunging, she'll perform a coordinated attack. Ow! Cat grass, using small cat grass cardamones, dealing 200% of her attack. So this way it's considered elemental burst damage. Oh. Curious. That's actually pretty good, right? So that's good Dendro application. I think most people want that. All nearby party members gain 12% all elemental damage bonus after she uses her skill or burst. Oh, wow, okay. Huh. That's just nice. She's good at C0, though, isn't she? Is it C0 or 4? Because 4 gives her that, like, off-field power. Because otherwise, she's just kind of a driver. Literally. So, if you're not driving, I guess you want C4. If you're not the driver, you're C0. If you are the driver, you're C0. If you're not the driver, it's got to be C4. She's a C4 girl. Yeah, she does her job well at C0, so I'm inclined to go with C0. She's cool cons, though. Her constellations are very cool. I like them. Lynette is either C0 or C4. Lynette's a weird one, isn't she? She's a strange one. You're a strange one, Mr. Grinch. Her C6 ended up kind of sucking. When Enigma Thrust hits an opponent, she gets some pull. Oh, she gets her pull at C1. Ooh. Might be C1. Because as an Animo support, you really want pull, right? Grouping is kind of like your jazz. We're jumping over introductions and straight to debating. Not that I mind. I'm doing alright, by the way. Glad to hear it. So it could be C1. C2 is... it's okay. Just a little bit of extra damage, I guess. C4 is the second skill. That's a good one. And then C6 is the Animo Infusion, which kind of sucked. I'm so shocked that this wasn't very good. Like, 20% Animo damage bonus plus an Infusion seems good. I think it's C1, though, right? C4 is, like, the extra charge is crazy good. But I think just 1 is good enough if you have pull, right? Yeah, you know what? If no one has any, like, debate with me on this one, I'm gonna lock in C1. I think I lock it in on this one. I have a debate. Go on. Go on, Foxy. I'm here for it. Because I can be convinced. I can be convinced in another direction. Like, you can convince me on C4. Abnormal. Anyway, what the hell are we doing with Lynette? So apparently C1 kind of sucks. Maybe we just say C4 for the double dash. You know what? I kind of stand corrected. Only 50% though. What's the other 50%? You know what? I'm going to just go with C4. If C1 is as bad as Foxy makes it out to be, I'm going to go with C4 because the double dash is really, really good, and it's probably the thing that makes her the most interesting to use in the overworld. Probably. Anyway, let's move on to Fremine. Fremine is kind of interesting because he's like that physical DPS similar to Razor, but he's just... I think he's just better than Razor, if I'm being honest. I think he's just a better Razor. If I'm being fully transparent. I don't know where he is, actually. I think I leveled him up. I did level him up. I put real investment into this kid at one point. So, crit rate on his skill, Shattering Pressure is good. Extra energy is fine, but I don't think he usually needs it. Is leaking in the chat? Not at the moment, I don't think. Sprix, you broke my heart. Ningguang was my main DPS until AR50. Oh, she's good. I'm just C6 makes her, like, awesome. She goes from, like, being okay to being, like, amazing. Hold on, I'm having a cookie. I've decided that I have earned a cookie. And 36% crit damage. I think he might actually be fine out of the box. I think this might be, like, a weird case of, like, the physical character being, like, totally workable out of the box. I use Charlotte, I don't know her cons. I have no idea what Charlotte does with her cons. So... more healing. Self-attack buff based on target's hit. They only know how to make nachos with chess. I'm assuming cheese, but chess is really funny to think about. Opponent marked with the snappy silhouette, focus impression will take 10% more damage and restore some energy. Okay, yeah, that's decent. When an active character normal and charge attack hits an opponent marked with her camera, icy impression, ghosts opening my door again, more damage, more attack, healing. So C0, right? Yeah, C0. She's good out of the gate. Chevreuse, I think, is going to be the same boat, honestly. But we'll look at Chevy. We'll give Chevy a good a fair look. Because she's just good out of the box, but I guess it's C0 given no one seems to know what she actually does. Yeah. Because, like, none of her cons really, like, make you go, like, oh, okay, now she's viable. All of her, even without her cons, you're like, yeah, she's just good. And what do you say when she has her cons? Yeah, she's just good. It's the exact same thing. Magical door, like I saw in Western horror movies. Beware the magical door. Gaming might not be the same. Gaming's a weird one. We'll talk about Gaming. But yeah, so energy generation, which doesn't really matter, like it's party energy, which is nice, but it's only okay. More explosions, which do more damage. More explosion that does more damage, basically. And the C6 is really powerful, but man, you don't need it. You don't need it. So yeah, she's definitely a C0 girl. I think next was Gaming, right? There's really not much to say about her, thankfully, I guess, because she's just good. Gaming, on the other hand, though, he's an interesting one. So, obviously his C6 is crazy good. Like, more crit rate and more crit damage is just fantastic, bigger radius, like, but he's playable without it. For when your dog meets up with Gaming, you get health back. Doesn't really do all that much, it's nice, but it's whatever. Doesn't change anything. Gaming receives healing. Instance of healing overflows, he gets 20% attack. This is actually pretty good, right? It doesn't change him that much, though. C4, on the other hand, though, I think we have to talk about this one. So, I think it might be C4. So, I think the argument for Gaming is between C0 and C4. How many people have played Gaming? Do we have any Gaming enthusiasts in the chat that can remind me how bad his energy is? Because he has energy problems. He has some nasty ones. And without his burst, he kind of sucks. Like, you need that burst up. And this is really key to getting his burst back up when you need it. Gaming out of the box does a lot of damage. But without energy, he has a huge struggle. C4 helps fix that problem. I've never played Gaming, and all I know is that he has to do with plunging. Yeah, his plunges are really good. He needs his burst to do his plunges in a way that matters, though. And to make his plunges do something, he needs his burst so he can actually plunge frequently. I'm going to put him in C0. Because he is really good. And just as like a draw damage dealer, as a new character, like if you're a new player and you just get Gaming, you're gonna be pretty happy. Because he's really good. But you really want to get his C4 eventually, because it does make a massive difference on his gameplay. We got 2 more characters left. We're so close. We're so close, guys. We can absolutely do this. I think my Sethos should be up here right now, right? Yeah. Okay, does Sethos need cons? Let's find out. Yeah, I think he might be fine at cons. Like, 15% crit rate on specifically Shadow Piercing Shot is cool. God damn, he has so much text here. When the following conditions are met, he gets 15% electro damage bonus for 10 seconds, stacked twice independently. Consuming elemental energy and regaining elemental energy from his skill. Or just using his burst, I think? Oh. Okay, that's fine. 2.5 hours. Well, we've been streaming for 2.5 hours. I've only been recording this for 2 hours. Shadow Piercer or Dusk Bolt Shot strike two or more opponents. All party members gain some EM. That's sort of, it's good, but it's mid because of the trigger. After Shadow Piercing strikes an opponent, the elemental energy consumed by the passive talent will be returned. Can be triggered up to every 15 seconds, and must first unlock the Black Kite Enigma. Okay, so you get a free shot every 15 seconds. Seems okay. Yeah, I'd put him at C0. He's a C0 guy. He does his job at C0. Seems good to me. I don't think there's much else to say. I'm going to put Kachina in 0. We'll look at the cons, but having played with all the cons now, I do think she is something of a C0 girl. The C1 kind of is like whatever. The C2 is really nice. I will admit, like, the extra 20 Night Soul is really good, but it's fine without it. Extra defense is fine, and this is also fine. Yeah, honestly, she's C0. She's good out of the box. She does exactly what she needs to do right away. So anyway, I'm going to finally wrap up this video, because, god damn, for those watching on YouTube, this was 2.5 hours almost, and most of it was yapping about stuff that made no sense. Oh my god. Anyway, that's every single character rated based on what constellation they're particularly good at. So, as a new player, if you get one of these characters, what constellation is the one you should be looking out for? And I think this is fairly accurate for the most part. Like, most characters, most 4-stars are actually good right away. Some want a constellation or 2, and then there's a handful of them that want like 4 or 6 because they're very, very greedy and need all the help they can get sometimes. Or just need that one talent to break themselves in half. See Noelle for details. Anyway, so that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. As always, cheers. Whew.